The impact of COVID-19 is complex around homelessness. There was a very rapid mobilization of effort, of funding to create non-congregate shelters, which was incredibly effective both in keeping people alive, not having massive outbreaks of COVID-19 in highly concentrated populations in shelters. That was really effective. It also showed us a model that was different for how you might think about sheltering people in an emergency or transitional way. At the same time, the economic upheaval of the pandemic created a lot of uncertainty for people. Many people did lose their homes in the course of the pandemic, and we've seen tent cities emerge in communities all over the U.S. in a way that we've not really seen on that scale since the Great Depression. Visibility of homelessness, encampments, people living in vehicles, is rising in a lot of communities, and that gives pause to policymakers, to the public, to local leaders, to law enforcement, feeling like we're pressured to do something right now. And sometimes that translates into thoughtful policy, sometimes it translates into reactivity and unhelpful strategies.
We expected with the economic downturn and the social dislocation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic that many people would lose their housing. Fortunately, there was an eviction moratorium in place, which has helped, but now that is over, and we're seeing more and more people being evicted throughout the country. Many people are becoming homeless for the very first time, and that is a human tragedy on a colossal scale.
Fundamentally, the problem is a housing problem. Families making minimum wage, even when they're working 2 and 3 jobs, which they often are, can't afford market rate housing. We need to double down our investment, triple down our investment in producing housing for low-income households.
Are you ready? Yep.
Like most communities, especially in the West Coast, Sacramento is really challenged with a rising homeless population. About 70% of the people who are homeless in Sacramento live outside or in a vehicle. And so while we are working really diligently to create permanent solutions in housing and intensive social services, we know that we need interim shelter beds that meet the needs of folks who are currently living on the streets. This is our first site. We're calling it the Safe Stay Community. What's different about this as a shelter is really the physical layout. Unlike a traditional shelter where people are invited in and then they're in a big congregate facility with a cot next to somebody else, people get privacy, they get their own space, they get a place where they can store their belongings, bring their pet. And so we're really confident with this type of model that people who are currently living outside and maybe unwilling to or unable to accept a shelter in a large facility will come inside, and then will be able to engage in the services they need to end their homelessness.
This is something that is very close to us. A number of our core members themselves have faced or are facing homelessness. So to be a part of a solution is absolutely a dream come true.
When I'm building these shelters, it makes me feel very humble because I've come from the life that they're living, and I wish that I would have had an opportunity to move into something like this, to feel secure, to maybe help the process of getting my life back together.
We're building 200 units of affordable rental housing here on this 8-acre portion of this site. The apartments will be spread out in 24 different buildings, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and targeted to a wide variety of household sizes and incomes. We were working on this for at least a good 3 years prior to the final financing coming together. We've certainly seen over the course of the pandemic an increase in the support, both politically and then financially, at many local levels of government, and then, of course, in a significant way at the state level. Having the perseverance to push through and to continue to innovate and eventually put it all together and be able to break ground like this feels very fortunate for us.
One of the really challenging elements of homelessness is it's not the kind of issue where there's a couple of main causes. Everybody wants to say it's this and it's this, and it's not. A lot of folks point to mental illness and drug addiction. I think that's a much more complicated story than is usually told. In most cases, those are consequences of experiencing homelessness rather than the causes. But I think the reality is that a lot of folks are pretty close to homelessness. And when housing is more expensive, it's just easier to find yourself without it. We're seeing data becoming increasingly important across localities. People are using it more and more frequently to identify the gaps in the services that they're providing, but also to see where is the inequity in their system.
You cannot look at homelessness in this country without looking at racism. And it is a domino effect.
People of color and people who identify as LGBTQ face tremendous barriers around ongoing discrimination in housing, in jobs, in access to a full range of opportunity that our society has to offer. It's no accident that people of color are dramatically more likely to become homeless and have barriers to exit from homelessness.
The racial disproportionalities, particularly Black folks, incredibly disproportionately represented. Indigenous folks, whose story really doesn't get told enough, are thought to be an 8-fold increased risk of homelessness. The fastest growing group of people experiencing homelessness are 65 and older. The median age is getting close, if it isn't at 50. And you might say, well, 50 doesn't seem that old, but what our research has shown is people who are 50 and homeless look much more like people in their 70s and 80s in the general population.
People see the crisis of unsheltered homelessness around them, and it's very understandable that that's where people want to devote the resources. But that can sometimes mean that prevention is not as visible, because it's harder to see the folks that are right on the brink than the people who've already fallen over it.
We are at the Loft, which is a homeless shelter for youth ages 12 to 17. They can either find us through their caseworkers, teachers, parents. I think this is a big key to the puzzle because it provides a safe space for youth to come, kind of like a landing pad, where they come, they get everything sorted out, figured out, and then they're on their way.
The Subcommittee on Housing, Transportation, and Community Development will come to order.
When we have rooms of people in power, policymakers, funders, providers, making decisions on behalf of people who have experienced homelessness, we're never going to get to the right solutions. If you look at any movement for social change, it is always grounded in the leadership and the experience of people who have been there, who have experienced it, and who know from hard-earned personal experience and wisdom what it's going to take to end this issue.
I just want to say I appreciate everyone's passion when it comes to this work. For me, having been in foster care and been homeless myself, to see people that want to change the stigmas around these issues, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see, and I'm so lucky to be a part of this family and this team of people, of amazing people.
One of the takeaways from the pandemic for me is that when communities can address a crisis of that magnitude effectively, collaboratively, focused on a common goal, they can carry that lesson, they can carry that muscle they built into future challenges. That gives me some hope coming out of the pandemic, that some of the creative and collaborative solutions that have been built can inform how we tackle homelessness in the future.